Okay. Greetings, friends of the apocalypse. This is Jared the Apocalypse Nerd Wallace. And Adam,
Apoc-
I don't know, man.
Apocalypse word, okay?
The Apocalypse word, yes. Because
The word of the day is plutonium.
because they've led you to believe that the bird is the word, but the apocalypse is the word, apparently. So, and Adam Scott Glancy. Coming,
Uh,
coming
I,
to you.
I keep thinking I keep thinking I need to come up with a moniker. I mean, you are the apocalypse nerd. Maybe I should be like the atomic bum.
Anything's possible. Anything that you want, anything that you feel is appropriate, we will
Well,
call you that. And
perhaps
many things that you don't want to be called either.
perhaps our seven listeners can write in and suggest something horrible. I'm looking at you, Scroggins. I know that you will be able to suggest something absolutely horrifying that will make me weep tears of blood.
So again, Jared Apocalypse, Nerd Wallace, and Adam Blank Scott Glancy coming to you for podcast at Ground Zero, episode 20, Dystopian Apocalypse. So what we're gonna kind of talk about tonight is uh, dystopia in context of the apocalypse, because we know there's plenty of dystopia out there, but we really want to do it in the context of related to an apocalypse, not just a development of a totally fucked up society. We want to talk about ones that came about from either an apocalyptic world or finding pockets of dystopian societies in an apocalyptic world. It almost seems like they're the same, but they're kind of not. They are and they aren't.
And hopefully our hours worth of rambling tonight will make that perfectly clear.
Oh, of course, because it's perfectly clear to me, and we've been rambling about it all week. So,
Yeah.
um, so before we start, just a couple brief in the news things. Mr. Glancy came across an announcement for an expansion for a game we've talked about before, State of Decay. So you want to
Yeah.
talk about what you read about that, Scott?
Oh yeah. Undead Labs, who made State of Decay, and have made sort of an expansion for it called Breakdown. And I've been playing a little bit of Breakdown, and its big way that it's different than the other State of Decay game is that even though it uses the same setting, um, it adds a new element where you have to go and find a broken down RV, and there are multiple missions to fix it. And then by having this RV, you can move your settlement to different locations around the map. And the whole point of the game is to just suck every resource out of every corner of the map until you have to move, and then go to the next place, and then go to the next place, until eventually you just run out of supplies. And it's sort of a survival mode for the game. The new game is called Lifeline, and it's in development, and I don't know if it's going to be using the same map. It might. The map for State of Decay is actually incredibly huge and very complex. There's all kinds of nooks and crannies you get lost in. It's real. There's a lot of areas in it that are sort of muddled and confused, and I haven't explored even, I don't know, maybe a quarter or a third of the whole map. But Lifeline is going to be where you play members of the U.S. military. You're part of a unit called like Team Greyhound or Greyhound Company, like G Company of some larger unit, and you are sent into this area to protect some scientists who are working on a cure for the zombie virus. And instead of where you start off with nothing, you start off with a frying pan in Left 4 Dead, or sorry, in State of Decay. So starting with a frying pan and a can of beans, you actually start off with your M4 carbine, your bulletproof vest, your giant backpack, all your ammo and food and everything, and you have all these resources at the beginning of the game, like airstrikes and artillery strikes and reinforcements, and that all depends on taking and holding a landing field. There's a helipad. But as the game goes on and things start to get worse, your resources start getting taken away from you. You don't get the artillery unit's been overrun. The helicopters didn't get their fuel shipment. There's not a new supply drop, but you've got to keep going in an environment of diminishing resources, as opposed to an environment where, typical zombie apocalypse, you build up your post-apocalyptic kingdom. This one, it's going to be where your toys just start getting taken away one at a time until it gets harder and harder, and there is some opportunity for scrounging and making new resources and finding substitutes for the resources, but it's a different kind of setting. It reminds me a lot of Twilight 2000, the role-playing game, because you'll start off under orders from the military, but eventually you're going to get that call on the sat radio set that just says, good luck.
Look, you're on
your own. Yeah. So that is Lifeline, and I'm a big fan of State of Decay. So I look forward to what they bring. I mean, it is the unholy stepchild of The Sims, Grand Theft Auto, and DayZ, but without the human psychopaths.
Oh, the complete and utter major asshole factor,
Yeah. The griefers who live for no other reason than to make you take off your pants and run around naked while they shoot bullets at your feet. Yeah, that's DayZ.
Yeah, but also I also it's kind of a dysfunctional relationship that people have because people allow it to happen instead of just leaving.
Yeah. Why would you keep going back? The reason everyone attacks everyone else in the damn game is there's no downside to getting killed. You'll just come around. You just sign back in, a new character.
Yeah, there's no consequences.
Yeah, sure, you'll lose some stuff, but I mean, if I was try and dissuade people from doing all the being murder hobos and just running around the environment gunning down their fellow players, they should throw in more zombies, so that if you start whacking each other, you get overrun by zombies.
Yeah, because when you're not paying attention, you're worried about fucking other people. Oh look, fucking Zed just came up behind you and took a bite of your neck for lunch.
Yeah. That and make it so that if you die, you can't sign in for like 24 hours.
Yeah, because the old saying which I read in a some zombie story way back, way back, probably 10 to 12 years ago easily, back before the whole zombie thing exploded. There was a website, well, there still is a website called Homepage of the Dead. It was dedicated to the George Romero films, and they had a pretty good forum section. Again, this is like 2000. And they had a fiction section where people would post fan fiction of zombie stories. This is again before the whole glut where you can't swing now, because now you can't swing a cat without choking it with all by all the all the zombie stories and stuff out there. So it's a good thing. But a lot of this fan fiction, a lot of it was terrible, but there were some gems in there. There was some really good stuff I used to read in there, and. Well, the one saying I always kind of remember, trying to remember exactly how it went. It was something like, "You never see the zombie that bites you." Was a saying in one of these stories, and I'm like, what? I like that. I like that tagline.
Yeah.
Because it's true.
And I tell you what, certainly DayZ has that going. Not DayZ. I'm sorry. I was going to say State of Decay, because it's third person perspective. You can get snuck up on.
Oh yeah.
It's actually, as far as I'm concerned with this, because it won't give you the shot out your eyeballs. Your character will be looking in one direction, but the camera perspective is in another.
Yeah.
And something can run up behind you or in front of you and bite you. It's a little tough, but it that kind of chaos adds to the tension, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I played a little bit of it. It's good, but it's a lot of resource management, which I tend to get a little like that's why I don't like the new Arkham Horror. Too many fiddly bits, too much resource management. It's like, what? I don't need that much detail. I don't need that much stuff to manage. But
yeah, it's less of a story and more of a simulator.
Yeah.
There is no story to it. There's a friend of mine always goes on about how the one of the Walking Dead games that came out was one that made you. It was a story game, and it made you make decisions about what actions to take, and it gives you a timer. So
Yeah.
you have to make the decision under pressure, and
Yeah.
you're
Oh no,
stuck with.
those Walking Dead games are the ones by can't remember the name of it, but they're really good. They're Skybound.
Yeah,
Skybound does those. They're really good. You're talking about Tynes, aren't you? Because I
yeah.
think he made some kind of post about that, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
right. I mean, the Skybound ones, the Walking Dead are great, but the simulator one, it's not a bad concept. I mean, they do a good job of it. It's a little hard to get into,
yeah.
but anyway, folks. Military one's coming out, so I'm interested to see that perspective here. The only thing I got to add is I recently watched, and I talked about a while ago, I actually rented it because it never came out in the theaters by me, was The Colony, the new movie that came out with Lawrence Fishburne in it. They're like, it's kind of like the Ice Age has come, and there's pockets of these little colonies, these little fortresses scattered around. Short movie, small budget film. Hour and a half. Not a bad rental. I enjoyed it. I'm not really going to talk much about it to spoil it because it's still pretty new, but it's pretty good. It's worth a rental. If you have a local video store where you can rent stuff. I don't know if it's in like those red boxes or anything. 'Cause I know it's hard to. Like I said, I don't have any local video stores anymore down by me. I know Scott has a really good one up there in Seattle, Scarecrow. I'm
Yes.
sure they have it there. But if you have a chance to rent it, you can rent it online. Maybe it'll come on Netflix. It's worth a watch. The problem. I like what the problem winds up being. They don't get too ridiculous. It kind of makes logical sense. So I kind of like that.
Are you sure? Because the big gripe I hear about The Colony is that once again the writers think that cannibalism gives you superpowers.
Oh, see, spoiler alert, people. But
Yeah.
you just spoiled the whole thing.
Oh yeah, because during the Ice Age, when there's no food, it's going to come as an enormous shock to everyone that there might be cannibals.
No, I don't think the people had superpowers. I think that's a bit. I don't know where they got that from. The only thing I might apply was the only thing I didn't really like about it was the boss fight. There's always the boss fight.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
So the boss fight I didn't care for. I kind of liked everything else. Didn't like the boss fight. Maybe that's what they're talking about because the boss fight was a bit drawn out. I mean, did they give him superpowers? Nah, he's just a deranged psychopath, and he's got to be a bad guy. So yeah, I mean, like I said, that whole aspect of that boss fight thing I didn't care for, but I kind of liked the rest of it. I thought it was worth a rental.
All right, fair enough.
No, not an own. Unless I got it for free, but it's worth a couple bucks to rent. It was worth my entertainment. I rented it on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
Myself.
You don't feel you wasted your time?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I enjoyed it. Even Nancy enjoyed it, and she's not as much into the genre as all of us are. So.
Well, that would be quite a stretch for anybody to be into the genre as much as we are.
Yeah.
What the only other? Do we have any other apocalyptic news besides the real world apocalyptic news?
What about our good friend Ivan?
Well, yes, we're apparently yes. The Russians Russia seems to have what I would describe as phantom limb syndrome, where the
the phantom limb, like
yeah.
from
Venture Brothers. Yeah,
from the Venture Brothers.
what I mean to say is they can still feel the Crimea even though it was chopped off in 1991. They still have this thing where they've got a hard-on for bits and pieces of the old empire. And they're apparently Dr. Putin's prescription for how to fix this is surgery, where they're just going to graft pieces of these severed limbs back onto the itchy stumps, and that's going to make them feel better about being a member of the Fallen Empire Club. They went through this with Georgia, and nobody really noticed, and now they're trying it with the Ukraine. Next on the menu is probably Belarus and Kazakhstan. So get ready for that shit, fellas. But yeah, it's a good old-fashioned Cold War style scary bear, pre-apocalypse.
Yeah, because they're they feel like, hey, we're not so tough anymore. We got to flex our muscles and gain our respect back.
Yeah, well, every time they do that, they got to kick Georgia while it was down, and they did get to stomp the ever-loving piss out of Chechnya in the part 2 after they got their ass handed to them in, I guess it's 94. But again, they're beating up on the neighborhood cripples.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, was it that hard what they did? Was it difficult?
Yeah, I don't think they want to tangle with an actual neighbor who's a threat like China. If they take a swing at China, the Chinese are going to end up owning everything, east of the Ural Mountains before they're done.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not true. It'll just dissolve into a theater-wide nuclear exchange. But yeah, the Russians are picking on the Ukrainians, and everyone's pulling their hair out. I don't know if we need to get that excited. If Vladimir Putin screws this up, we could end up with Pussy Riot running the Kremlin.
Nice. Well, they can't do a worse job.
No, well, yeah, but I'm going to have to rewrite all that Delta Green material I already wrote for Russia.
Well, no, because remember, this is all alternate history, alternate universe stuff. So don't worry about it.
I really wanted the bear to be back, but I didn't want the bear to, leap off of its fucking front porch in its walker and fall down the front steps. So, oh well.
Yeah, it needed a little more rehabilitation first before it attempted those kind of scary things, right?
Yeah, I think Vladimir Putin could have waited and had a little, more physical therapy. Maybe tried a little more time in the gym before he tried this out on Ukraine. But we'll see.
More power to him. But anyway, so so that's kind of relevant, but. Let's talk about dystopian in the apocalypse. So, like I said at the beginning, what is the distinction between you have a dystopian society that came after the apocalypse and apocalypse still around, and you got a fucked up society, or do you have pockets of fucked up societies within the apocalypse? Where's the line? And let's just start mentioning some films, some things, some books, some stories, that we all.
I would go back and say the very first post-apocalyptic dystopia I can think of is Orwell's 1984, because that world exists after there was a nuclear exchange. There was a nuclear war, and this Stalinist society that has grown up in the aftermath. Is a result of that apocalypse, but that is a global dystopia.
Yes,
that is a dystopia where all the corners of the earth are working like a well-oiled machine to keep that boot stamping down on a human face. If I may quote O'Brien, the party apparatchik, forever and ever. That is the future of mankind.
Yes, and how much of it is they still say the war is continuing, but is the war really continuing, or are they just doing it just to keep the pressure on to
certainly
keep control?
Certainly the war continues, but only as a way to grind up excess population and to consume anything that the society produces to make sure that there is continued scarcity, which is part of their program of control. It's an orchestrated war. Again, we have always been at war with East Asia. Eurasia has always been our ally. Anyone who says otherwise is double plus ungood.
So that's definitely a good. That's a prime example of a dystopian society that grew from an apocalypse, and it's still kind of all around them because there's still war going on, things like that. Then we have some, classic dystopian examples that a lot of people should know is like Logan's Run, for
Yep.
example.
And the original Logan's Run is, I mean, the first one, the movie.
The movie, not the TV shows.
But the Michael York movie, there is clearly some sort of collapse.
Yes.
You know, once they get outside the city.
Yeah, we don't know what it is, but the world has collapsed, and it seems like they probably pulled together what was left of resources to this one big city to keep the population alive. But they definitely live in this, fucked up, dysfunctional, die when you're 30 society to keep control of the population as the world, had collapsed around them. So it's
the original novel, William F. Nolan's novel, has it so that at least all of North America, if not the entire world, is controlled by the city, and everyone's got to like that.
There's multiple cities, and they travel between the cities like by these long, like super intercontinental, like shuttles.
Yeah, and the apocalypse that actually happens is doesn't Logan cause an apocalypse of this dystopia?
Yes.
By wrecking the computer, he actually goes from, well, we have a dystopic society. The only way to fix it is with an apocalypse.
And get everybody, out to break the chains. So that's definitely a classic one. And they made a TV series about it too. I think it was on CBS or ABC. I can't quite remember. I think it was on CBS. 1977. They made a TV series based on that, which was they were running around in the wild, tracking down, runners, so they were aware of the outside world. Whereas in the movies, there's no outside world. This is the world,
Yeah, and yes, it is. It was the TV series is much more post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything about the series except what's his name from The Thing? That
was a robot, an android.
Yeah, he was an android. The guy who played the captain, whose name I had,
Oh well, Captain finally got to use his pop gun.
I was gonna go with. It's all the same to you, gentlemen. I know you've been under a lot of strain recently.
But when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch. But
Donald Moffat, that's the actor.
There you go.
So Donald Moffat was in it playing this android, sort of filling in the Spock role that everyone seemed to think science fiction shows had to have at least one Spock per show.
Well, yeah, because it came out in 77, and Star Trek started airing, 74, 75.
You're right. It is during the big time of the reruns.
Yeah, because that's when Star Trek gained all its. I could show you pictures when I was a kid when I had shirts with Spock and Kirk on it. I was a total Trekkie back then when I was 6.
I bought all the AMT models.
Nice.
Remember AMT?
Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, so Logan's Run was sort of the classic. Is another sort of post-apocalyptic dystopia, although we don't really get a good understanding on how
it all happened.
Yeah, how it got down there. Now, I guess when I say post-apocalyptic dystopia, what Jared and I are not talking about is a post-apocalyptic story where there's some warlord in charge of some community, and he's a tyrant, and he's got some thugs around him, and they smash you in the face if you don't give them all your gasoline, or that's not really a dystopia. That's just no.
That's just bullying, and it has to stop. It's gone out. It's gone too far. But
if I was going to give an example, one of those, an isolated dystopia in a post-apocalyptic setting, I'd have to go with the good people of Topeka, Kansas, which was the name of the underground shelter.
And a boy and his dog.
And a boy and his dog.
Yep.
Where it's Jason Robards and everybody's got smiles painted on their faces,
because everybody's happy. Yeah, because that's.
I can't say the C word. I can't say the C word, but it was, They got grease paint. Don't say the C word, all right? Jesus. But yeah, that was horrifying. Holy shit.
But
No,
it's
no one's allowed to be sad in Topeka.
so that's an example of, like, we're talking about how the whole world. I mean, again, there's a line between, like I said, the 1984 is a larger society, a world society that's developed after apocalypse, whereas in The Boy and His Dog there's a dystopian society within the the whole world is apocalypse, everything's destroyed, but it's more like a pocket. There's a small village or a town or city that's developed as a dystopian, dysfunctional society within the apocalypse. Again, a lot of these lines it's very gray. The gray area on this subject is a bit wide,
yeah.
but
In the global ones, I would throw out also the Hunger Games is a global, or at least a North America dystopic society. But since we don't like the Hunger Games, we're going to spend no time talking about that.
And I can't even really talk about it. I told you, the first movie, I walked out after about an hour because I couldn't stand it. Didn't see the second one. We get a lot of people hate me. Oh, the movies are great, and a lot of people tell me, well, if you read the books, you'll appreciate it more. Well, you know what? If I need to read the books to appreciate the movie, then the movie hasn't done its job.
Yeah, the movie failed.
The movie has failed.
But I would throw out Tripods.
Yes.
That's a really good example of a post-apocalyptic dystopia. Jared, you get to run with that one because you've seen the whole series, and I've only seen a few episodes.
Oh yes, it's the Tripods was actually based on a book series by our friend John Christopher, who has done a lot of post-apocalyptic novels. The English have did a series, TV series called the Tripods, based on the books. And basically, it's an alien apocalypse, alien invasion, destroys the world, takes over the world, takes control of the human population.
Is it H.G. Wells's Martians with their tripods from H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds?
I'm trying to remember deeper, like towards the end, like the City of Letting Gold. It's been a while since I've seen it, but they're on tripods and. It's all about the controlling of the humans, because when you reach a certain age, you get like this implant in your brain that controls you, so you're not aggressive, you have no free thought, you just do whatever they tell you to do, and you serve the tripods. Like the tripods would come around, because the world has gotten kind of medieval after they develop into like a medieval society, and they had like the annual ritual where the tripod would come in, and the people who are aged, they take them and give them their plates to control them. And the story is about this one kid who doesn't want to do it. He runs into this guy called Ozymandias, who's part of this underground movement to try to overthrow the tripods. And it's his adventures across England and through Western and Eastern Europe until he finally gets to a bigger organization of the resistance, and then how they try to go into. There's this one giant city of the tripods where they break in as servants and they try to overthrow them. So I mean, it's a pretty long series. It's 3 books. I read the books probably like mid '80s. Again, John Christopher. But the Tripods is definitely, it's kind of this dystopic society because again, it's apocalyptic. It's kind of dysfunctional in the fact that it's controlling. The tripods are controlling humans and using them as slaves. It's not, they've taken away free will of the people by putting these implants in.
Yeah, and the technology is, part of it is all technology is suppressed so that humans will never get to be a threat.
Oh, anything, even medieval technology is looked down upon. Anything, any kind of advancement. They have basic things to do, like basic medieval farming, but if you get a little bit crazy, like, hey, look, I've developed this. No, squashed. No advancement.
So no steam power, no
nope.
No wood gas,
nope.
So no solar panels, no windmills.
Nope. Well, yeah, they have windmills for power because like for milling,
Yeah,
grain
okay.
and stuff. But that's about it. That's about the most advanced thing they got.
No
Or
hooking
like,
the no hooking the windmill up to an alternator.
no.
Yeah,
Well, maybe the underground did, but
yeah.
your populace as a whole. So the tripods is a good example of that. Scott had mentioned, and I forgot about was it's more a comedic view of it, but Sleeper.
Oh, yeah. Sleeper is a post-apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic dystopia, even if it is done for laughs.
Yes.
Um, although, admittedly, Mr. Allen has gotten progressively less funny as we learn more about him.
Or not even, or just his movies have become less funny
No,
as
they yes.
time goes on. Period.
I prefer his earlier, funnier rapes.
Oh yeah, well, of course it's
All of his sexual molestations got terribly self-indulgent as he got older. You know what I
it's so
mean?
it's so tripe at this point. It's
Yeah, yeah. All right, enough slandering Mr.
Mr.
Allen.
Allen.
Moving along.
But what's funny is because I was doing some looking on the internet to see what other people think. Dystopia. I mean, there's plenty of dystopian societies out there. But again, we're looking at the context of apocalyptic, and what some people think are dystopian post-apocalyptic stories are like really. What was the what I somebody feels DEFCON 4 is a post-apocalyptic dystopian film.
well, that's exactly the example I was giving before. That okay, there's a warlord and some guy and his thugs, and they have a society. I don't quite consider that dystopian enough. That's just,
Yeah, it's
some sort of,
bullying.
yeah, it's just a backslide into savagery. What was the name of the book? The Descent into Savagery, or the
Path to Savagery.
Path to Savagery. Yeah. That's almost expected. For a dystopia, I'm looking for something that's not what I expected, like the Republic of Ruth from Planet Earth.
Yep.
Where John Saxon and Gene Roddenberry's Planet Earth travels out to the Republic of Ruth, which is this, Gene Roddenberry feminism gone crazy world where, up is down, black is white, and women are in charge. And what I find absolutely hilarious about the Republic of Ruth is, besides Dinah Muldaur, of course, turning up in it because she was in Star Trek, and later in Star Trek Next Generation, is that despite the fact that this is a female-dominated matriarchy, where men have no rights and are reduced to the level of property, and women have taken on all these male characteristics, including settling their disputes with fisticuffs, they're still wearing sexy clothing. All the women are still wearing these bare shoulders, bare midriffs, plunging neckline
Well,
outfits.
what else would they wear? Come on.
Something comfortable, something that says, I don't have. Why aren't the guys having to wear the banana hammocks? I mean, if the men are all wearing these cotton shirts, these sort of peasant
Tunics,
outfits. Well, yeah, the tunics and cotton pants, these peasant outfits, like they're in some Mexican pueblo. It's like, the women are in charge. How come they're not having to wear banana hammocks or something equally, humiliating? But all right, whatever, Gene Roddenberry. Clearly, he knew that his audience didn't want to see a lot of banana hammocks.
No. Well, but also in the other one, Strange New World, because we've talked about that trilogy before.
Yeah.
Strange New World has a very good example of the dystopian society when they first come down from the satellite and they're roaming in their little buggy and they come across this city which has kind of like this germ barrier force field, and these people are kind of immortal. And the one guy is this doctor who knows the other doctor from 180 years ago because he's perfected a immortality, surgery. Well, not really surgery, but they're kind of immortals. But they're immortals because they make clones and they clone organs, so they keep on replacing parts, spare parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a whole. The whole society is all peaceful, and they preach peace, and they work on the arts. There's no violence, but we're gonna clone people and chop them up in a body shop so I can keep on living. And we're gonna use our clones for slaves.
Yeah.
So it's a bit fucked up. And then of course, because they're all fucked up, it all goes awry because I think John Saxon breaks the germ barrier, and we have no resistance because we're all made from clone parts, and they all die.
So yeah, that thing really reminded me of the weird colony of immortals in Zardoz. The weird immortal society in Zardoz that Sean Connery burns to the ground.
Is that the one where he's got the big mustache? He's in that red jockstrap thing.
Banana hammock. We're back to the banana hammock. A banana hammock with thigh-high leather red boots and bandoliers of bullets. Yeah. Sean has never looked more redonkulous than in Zardoz. But that weird society where the rest of the world is savages scraping out a medieval living outside their sort of forced dome perfect society that nobody lives nobody ever dies and there's no reproduction and they're living in perfect stasis after the apocalypse. That sort of reminded me of the same guys from Brave New World.
Yeah.
Certainly, I guess those guys from Zardoz count as a dystopia. I guess, and even Children of Men.
Yes. Yeah, because it's the apocalypse is ongoing because there's no more births, no more population growth. The world is coming to an end, so the world's falling apart around him. But
in a more severe way than if you just had a giant population crash and there's only a few people left. There's no coming back. There's no breed your way out of this problem in Children of Men. It is, last one out, turn out the lights.
Yeah, it is lights out. We are done. We are out of here. Turn the sign, close for business. There's, we're not coming back in 15 minutes. We're, we're done.
Yeah, no more encores. And certainly it's created this kind of dystopian society in England where it's the lifeboat society where, everybody from everyone else's fucked up, country is trying to come to England for sanctuary. So it's a fascist police state. And again, they're handing out, there's commercials for euthanasia drugs on the television. And I can't remember what... was it Quiescent or something? There was some horrible brand name for it. You choose your time when you want to kill yourself rather than wait for the end. So the Children of Men definitely has a dystopia inside an apocalypse. I mean, insofar as when you hear little hints about what's going on in the rest of the world, it's what was it? The radio says day 500 of the siege of Seattle. That doesn't sound good for my neck of the woods, Jared. It really doesn't. And they imply that New York City's been nuked. So clearly the meltdown is ongoing in the rest of the world. It is a free-for-all. And England is a dystopia floating in the middle of this chaos. And
what did you say? Quintus?
It was something like Quietus or Quietus.
Yeah, Quietus. Quietus.
Quietus. Yes,
will instantly stop all vital organs and kill the consumer.
Guaranteed, or your money back. Yeah, that's great. So certainly, Children of Men has a dystopia. Let's see.
Because there's that one scene where he's like walking through the area. There's like this the park is all everybody's like in Sunday, outfits and hats and walking apart and enjoying playing
Yeah.
croquet. Like nothing, like the world isn't collapsing around them.
Yeah, it's like the green zone in London. It's like the Baghdad's green zone, except they've moved it to London. It's surrounded by, guys in bulletproof vests with, riot shield helmets, to keep the rest of the hoi polloi at bay, while these people enjoy the end of enjoy the end, enjoy the last of the show, the final reel.
Another thing I think qualifies as a dystopian film would be apocalyptic dystopian film would be 12 Monkeys. I think would
Yes,
fall under that.
yes, there is a dystopia in that they're all living. It's another bunker.
Yep.
It's another Topeka, where that society, because he's in prison for a long list of crimes that are things like bad social attitude, refusal to obey authority, improper deference to his superior officers, things like that. Just being grumpy apparently lands you in the fucking cells. That reminds me of Dust, which is the post-apocalyptic dystopia set in the giant underground colony that is there in the silos. That is there.
That's the one with where you got to clean the periscope, right?
Yeah, where the execution means is to be kicked outside of the colony with a suit that's going to dissolve in the toxic environment outside. And you're supposed to clean off the lenses of the cameras that allow the people inside to see a view of the outside world, so they don't go completely bug shit crazy, I guess. And it's pretty ghastly. It's pretty ghastly, and it is a dystopia with all the things we expect from sort of a lifeboat survival dystopia, but also a society organized around a big lie, right? There's a big lie about why they're there, what the apocalypse was, and the whole society is designed to preserve that lie without spoiling it. Handmaid's Tale?
Yes, Handmaid's Tale.
In the book, they mentioned that there was some sort of terrorist attack on the United States, which is sort of a micro-apocalypse, with some nukes going off, probably no more apocalyptic than, say, Jericho. But the result is that as America reorganizes itself into a dystopia. So I'm not quite sure where that falls on our scale, because it's just America going down the tubes, not the rest of the world.
But it definitely falls more to the listener, because again, looking at some things that people who think are post-apocalyptic dystopian films, like on this one list, apparently somebody thinks The Road is a post-apocalyptic dystopian film. I got to disagree with that.
Yeah, there's not enough society. There's not enough society left to make a dystopia.
Exactly. Or what else do they have here that I thought was ridiculous? La Mort de Combat they have on here.
Again, not enough society to make a. Wait a minute, you mean Dernier Combat? The final battle? The one that
yes. I'm sorry, Le Dernier de Combat with
Luc Besson. Luc Besson directed it, and Jean Reno is in it.
Yep.
As the brute or the beast or whatever he is.
This person also thinks that Waterworld is a dystopian post-apocalyptic world.
I see the way the two societies that show, the atollers and the smokers, and I just can't quite hang the word dystopia on that. I guess maybe
Time of the Wolf they also have on here. No,
there's no society there.
Yeah, and here's the biggest one of all, I think. Threads is a dystopian film, according to these people.
Yeah, I guess there's a society, but at the same time, it's not dystopia like like Logan's Run. It's not dystopia like Boy and His Dog, like the Society and Boy and His Dog.
Yeah, because that's the kind of stuff we're kind of looking at here, you know.
I guess the Allied States of America might be considered a dystopia in Jericho. You know what I mean? Insofar as, you know, they're rewriting history. They're in the TV series. They're in the process of trying to rewrite American history and create a dystopia. You know, and they're using the chaos of the attack to, you know, make this new, more terrible America out of a mess. But I guess he doesn't quite make it to a dystopia. What was the name of the society that was created in Jeremiah? That was not Valhalla Sector, which was your continuity of government. You know, but there was another society that was built by a bunch of former Valhalla Sector social engineers who tried to create the perfect charismatic leader, the perfect cult of personality leader to reorganize society. Was it Joshua?
God, it's been so long since I've seen that.
Sounds like a job for Wikipedia.
I know. But while you're looking that up, things that I think fall under some dystopian apocalypse films is, I think the Matrix, the first Matrix, could fall under that category.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's absolutely a dystopia.
Yeah.
There's been an apocalypse. And the resulting dystopia is you live in a tube.
You live in a tube. That's it. But you don't know. Everything's happy, you know, and they control you. So I think that definitely fits under the apocalyptic genre. You know, the Matrix, the original Matrix, the best one out of the three. You know, the other two are kind of,
Daniel. That was that was Daniel's army. That was sort of a.
Did they have like a base around a lake or something?
That was another part of the series. Now Daniel was this thing where they would like clean up some areas of some areas of cities and try and get the lights on in like one area and sort of create this facade of progress and recovery. And it was all just bells and whistles and dog show, you know, to try and get people seduced by the idea of, where it's all coming back and we're bringing America back, but it was all just a, you know, sort of a facade, almost like North Korea.
Huh, yeah.
You know.
What about? Let me throw this one out there. It's a newer film. It's one of your favorite actors was in it. Oblivion. Tom Hanks.
It is an apocalypse.
And there's a bit of a dystopia because. Doing it like a very micro dystopia.
Well, they do think they're part of a society. I mean, our main characters think that they are part of a bigger society.
Yep.
And they get a rude awakening on that point. So I'm not, but I'm. You know what? You're right. In a way, they are part of a bigger society. In that the two of them. What was the thing? We're a good team. You know.
Are you an effective team?
Are you an effective team? Yeah, that horrible thing. They are in a society. They think they're part of a society.
But they kind of are part of a society because there's them, and then the next one over, and the next one over, and the next one over, and the next one over. So there's a large group of them. They kind of create a whole, you know, community of pairs of workers, part of this whole bigger society. So.
Yeah, it is a nightmare world where they have to be fooled. I guess that's one of the things about a dystopia, is that there has to be sort of this idea that this pretense that it's not as bad as it is. You know what I mean? Whenever we think of, we're setting societies, we're setting Logan's Run, where everyone's like, we're fucking and having sex and it's great, and nobody thinks about Life Day, you know? And in Topeka, everybody's, you know, in Buenos Aires, everybody's got a smile on their face, and there's a 4th of July barbecue every day, you know. You know.
Wait! That sounds like my house, but
and certainly in Oblivion, everything's great, you know. we're almost done with our work, or just a few more days until we're done with our shift, or whatever it was.
We'll go back up to the facade of the world that they create for them, with the
Yeah,
communications. It's not that doesn't exist.
yeah. So there's definitely that going on. I mean, so the idea that a lot of dystopias have a big lie,
Yeah.
where people are either ignoring the apocalypse, there are
Or
these societies.
they're being lied to control them.
Yeah, yeah. Something as naked as DEFCON 4, where it is just naked, the naked exercise of power, like Gary Oldman in whatever that Blind Swordsman movie was.
Gary Oldman and Blind.
Well, I've forgotten the movie, the name of the Denzel Washington apocalyptic movie.
Oh, the Book of Eli.
Yeah, calling Gary Oldman's little community that he runs a dystopia is really giving it a lot more credit.
Yeah, he's just a warlord.
Yeah. There's another series of books, and I've only read the first one in the series, called Prayer for the Assassin. Have you ever heard of this, Jared?
No. Mm-mm.
It was written back in the early 2000s, and it had one goal. This book had one goal: scare Americans with Muslims. I mean, that was it. That was the goal of this book, because it presents a dystopian society of America having converted to Islam, following a nuclear terrorist attack that was done by Israel. And sort of that, the Israelis, they evacuated the 5,000 Jews from the World Trade Center, and sort of going from that sort of bullshit conspiracy theory, America got nuked. Like Washington, New York, Mecca got nuked, and it was all a plot by the Israelis. And so, America nukes Israel for having attacked New York and Washington. And there's a giant civil war in America where somehow, Islam ends up winning. And everybody in America has all the men have beards, and there's the story is set in Seattle, so they're like down at the new stadium downtown, except it's called Bin Laden Stadium now, and they're playing football, and there are no female cheerleaders, and the only appropriate cheer is Allah Akbar, and it was just this, it was designed just to be all scary post 9/11, and but it was an apocalypse, and it did generate a dystopia, and the dystopia was predicated on a lie that Israel attacked America and attacked Mecca, when really it was all wicked, evil Muslims who were so wicked and evil that they were willing to blow up and irradiate Mecca in order to destroy the great Satan during the course of the story. Because these Muslims, they can't be trusted. They're made out of evil.
That's a given. But
there's at least two books in the series: Prayer for the Assassin, and I don't know what the other one is. But it is a dystopian America that has been created post-apocalypse.
Now, where a series of book where we see dystopian societies a lot is the Deathland series.
Some of them are flat warlords, but things like Crater Lake.
Oh, no, there's a lot of warlords, but not everybody's. But there's like the Crater Lake, the Anthill, There's this one story where they're out like in the desert, like in Arizona or something, and they come across this society where there's some kind of genetically engineered guy who comes off as like the sun god, and they got this weird dystopian society there. So in the Deathland series, you do encounter these pockets, of dystopian societies in the apocalypse. Most of them are just barons and warlords, but there are some true like dystopian, dysfunctional, the lie kind of societies there. You do encounter that quite a bit in that series.
Looking up at my shelf, seeing if I can figure out anything else that would fall into this category. I'm sure somewhere out there people are yelling at us. Tripods really is one of the tops.
Yeah, tripods. Book-wise, I don't got that many. I don't really got a whole lot related to that. But Deathlands definitely has it. Movie-wise, a couple I want to throw out there just to see what you think about. Would it be dystopian? What about the first Mad Max movie? Is that a dystopian apocalypse?
Well, it's certainly it's kind of pre-apocalyptic, so it's a dystopia. I mean, the world is breaking down. It's under the strain of lacks of resources and running out of energy, and everyone's dirt fucking poor. So it feels like it's a dystopia. Which is about to get fixed by an apocalypse. Now that I think of it, I was going to say earlier that on that same theme of a dystopia, that the only way to fix it is with an apocalypse. I was thinking, and again, it's a terrible movie, and I don't recommend it for anyone. But Escape from L.A. Now, at the end of Escape from L.A., Snake Plissken's option is, well, gee, I can either use the orbital weapon system to, help the theocratic fascists in America, or I can use the orbital weapon system to help the third world anarchist communists. Fuck both of you, and he turns the lights off on the entire planet, rather than let either side win. And that's one way to fix a dystopia.
Well, and I was gonna bring up Escape from New York. Discounting the second film because I only saw a part of it. All I remember was from the commercials. I only saw like snippets of it. Was he was surfing in a canal on a surfboard, and I'm like, I'm calling bullshit on this. I am not watching this film.
No, it's not good. All right.
Yeah.
Now, we could do an entire show on all the things that are wrong with Escape from L.A. Escape from New York, we have a fight with baseball bats with nails through it and garbage can lids, right?
Oh, it's a classic film.
That's the big confrontation, right? Isaac Hayes makes Snake Plissken fight Ox Baker, this professional wrestler, and in Escape from L.A., the bad guy makes Snake Plissken shoot hoops. I know you're thinking, how is that possible? But yes, the look on your face, Jared, is classic. Yes, it's a deadly hoop shoot. I shit you not.
I have nothing to say.
Yeah.
I have no reaction to that.
No.
Okay, it's again. It doesn't exist. So
that's best. It's best if it doesn't.
So I was gonna pretend I was gonna say the original Escape from New York before the travesty that was out was like that. The movie, it seems kind of dystopia, but is it kind of is there there's definitely apocalypse within New York City.
Well, but
is there an apocalypse in the overall world? So there's some world left, but is that like a dystopian apocalyptic film, the first one? Because we don't really see anything beyond the whole New York area. We don't really know what's out there.
Yeah, but since there's a peace conference going on with the Soviets and the People's Republic of China, and since Plissken, quote unquote, flew the Gulf Fire over in Leningrad, youngest man ever decorated by the president, I presume World War III is ongoing in Escape from New York. World War III is ongoing, and and they're warming up. They're finally getting to the point where they're going to start lobbing nukes at each other, and certainly we're working our way towards an apocalypse. I'm going to bet that there are sections of real estate in Eastern Europe and Western Europe that look like the surface of the moon. When Snake Plissken is hoofing it down the down through the World Trade Center. Well, then again, it was 1997, so the World Trade Center was there. It's not like it had been knocked over yet, so he can certainly work his way down to the 50th floor of the World Trade Center. So I'm not sure that it's a dystopia. Certainly, it's a dystopia. There is an apocalypse looming.
Yeah, but it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Now, what about here? This just came to mind. What about hardware?
Yes. Hardware counts. Certainly, I think, is a dystopia. And it is a post-apocalyptic Oh, you know, we totally forgot. We're such idiots, Jared.
What?
Fucking Judge Dredd. How could we be sitting here running our mouths? We're bad. We're not good at this, Jared.
We're terrible. Stop watching, everybody.
Yeah, we need to wrap this up. And I Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
Maybe the greatest dystopia, post-apocalyptic dystopia, frickin' ever.
Yeah,
you know?
You're right.
And you know, Stallone movie aside, I'm a big fan of Dredd.
I was reading the 2080s, the newspaper editions that came over from England back in like the early 80s. My local comic store used to get them in.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't get it. You know, we got a Cursed Earth. We've got, you know, President Ripper, or was it President Ripper?
No, wasn't it? Well,
no, it was Booth. It was President Booth.
Judge Fish, but
we've destroyed the Earth. We've had an apocalypse, and the result is the dystopia of Mega City 1, Mega City 2. That's our dystopia. And
1, 2, and
Texas City.
Texas City. I was like, it was Texas something I couldn't quite remember, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so Judge Dredd, total best example of the dystopian post-apocalypse society. That's why you made me think of because I mentioned hardware, because that was based off a 2000 AD story.
That's why I remembered.
Because it's a post-apocalyptic world, and the guy they have like the off worlds where everything's all high and mighty and high tech, but people live in the squalor of the apocalypse. So
yeah. And I can't think of enough good things to say about that most recent Judge Dredd movie. Have you seen it, Jared?
Oh yes, I thought it was very well. It was a very good dungeon crawl. The adventure was a dungeon crawl. It's kind of a mix of, now, in comparison, like I said, the Stallone film, Stallone's ever, they got the world setting of the comic book pretty good.
I admit that the Judge Dredd with Stallone, the look was closer to the comic book.
The comic books. This one is more gritty. This one seems to be more like the rise of the mega city. Because there was a war, things are breaking down, the blocks have just started to develop. They're not everywhere yet.
Yeah, that's right. It's not all mega blocks.
It's not all mega blocks yet. And so Judge Dredd takes place well into that society, but then in this one they kind of pulled him back a bit during the development of it,
Yeah.
But I still think it was done very well. I think our friend, Urban, totally nailed the Judge Dredd character.
Yeah. No matter what, Carl. And here's the other thing that's very important that I think is critical. They never took the helmet off.
Exactly. That is the most significant thing about that. They didn't take the fucking helmet off. Because you know what? Judge Dredd doesn't take his fucking helmet off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like the Spirit taking his gloves off or his mask. That shit does not happen.
There's been the occasional Dredd not having his helmet on, but it's always done from behind, in the shadow, so you don't see his face.
I just think it's hilarious that that the people who made the Judge Dredd movie with Stallone actually thought we have to take the helmet off because otherwise, how will anyone know that Sylvester Stallone is in this movie? How will they know? And I'm like, really?
I don't know. Maybe his distinct voice. Maybe his
That might, his distinct voice is he looks like a fucking cartoon. That was like when he was in his most overly exercised of his life. I think he's gonna stand out. All 5 foot
but
5 inches.
he was not having his face on screen, which kind of ruins the character. So that's
Yeah,
what they did completely wrong. And then uh, what's his name who had the
Schneider.
Schneider was the comic relief, awful. But anyway, so yeah, so Judge Dredd alone, the comics to 2000 AD, which is still being produced to this day, very great
Excellent. Yeah.
post-apocalyptic dystopia.
Yeah.
I think that'll be like one of the crowning ones we have there.
Yeah.
So
Well, we started strong with things like Logan's Run, and again ended up at Judge Dredd. And I got to tell you, Logan's Run is another one that probably wouldn't hurt to be redone. They could probably remake that film. Yes, we've had some bad Planet of the Apes movies. Thank you,
yeah,
Tim. Thank you, Tim Burton.
yeah.
But Logan's Run is one that it's worth a crack. I would be if somebody came and started shopping around a Logan's Run script. It's got everything you can ask for from Hollywood. It's going to have lots and lots and lots and lots of young, pretty people.
And I think that since Mr. Knoll is still with us and lives in Portland, I think he needs to be approved. He has to have approval on it. At least to say.
Well, I tell you what, if they rolled it back to his original timescape, which is you're dead by 21.
Yeah.
It wasn't dead by 30. It's dead by 21. Right about the time you're starting to develop your own moral compass, and you're no longer a goddamn sheep. Boom, you're dead. Society removes you. Something closer to that would be interesting.
Yes.
Because again, it touches on one of the creepiest things ever, which is the whole child soldier thing. The Sandmen who are running around killing runners are 14 and 15 years old.
Yes.
They've come out of the Sandman Academy at age, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16, and are just murdering people for the state. And it's got that child soldier thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and again, it puts a different perspective on things. Like this will be the last thing. And like another perfect example of that is A Clockwork Orange story, the original book, and the movie. Like when you know things about, because in the movie Alex is depicted as older, like 18, 19 maybe, but in the books he's like 12.
Oh, Jesus.
Did you not know that?
No, I'm sorry. I have missed that.
Oh, in the book, he's 12, 13 years old. Okay, so a lot of the things he does puts in a different perspective. Now the other boys were older than him. They were like 15, 16. So, like the scene in the movie where he picks up the chicks at the record store and comes back to the house and has sex with them.
Yeah,
that happens in the book, but it's more like they were like 11 and 10 and he raped them. Yeah, it
So what you're saying is Malcolm McDowell's was allowed to make his character of Alex so much more likable.
Yes.
and approachable and okay.
He was a jolly good chap, but
oh God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it puts a completely different perspective on that. You get a chance to read that book. Yeah, it makes it very different. So, that being said, all right. So that's our talk this week, folks, on Dystopian Apocalypse. Next show, I've been kicking around the idea with Scott. I want to talk about reality apocalyptic television.
And I am working my way through the first season of The Colony right now. I am on my way.
So we're going to talk about things like The Colony, the pilot Apocalypse Man from History Channel, things like, these Doomsday Castle, Doomsday Preppers. We're going to talk about these types of like reality shows, and how people prepare for the apocalypse. So I think that seems to be the direction we're going for the next show.
Yep.
Normally we would do it, I don't know, do you think, I'm going to look at our calendars. We'll see if we can pull it off maybe next week, because we had to delay a week, so we're kind of off schedule. So I want to see if maybe we could get back on schedule and do two in a row. If not, we'll do it in 2 weeks. We might do it in 2 weeks just to give us time to kind of really sort through the material a little bit more.
I've got again, another 15 episodes to get through all of The Colony, season 1 and 2, and that's not even counting Doomsday Preppers, which I will poke around, and I'm looking to find that guy on Doomsday Preppers who just recently got busted up
Oh
here
yeah, yeah, up
in Olympia, near Olympia,
yep.
Washington. There was some guy who apparently showed up on Doomsday Preppers to announce that his plan was to get guns and steal everybody's shit.
And he'd appear on TV with guns, and he's like a felon, so he's not allowed to own guns or something like that.
Yeah, so he actually was, standing around holding guns and shooting guns on the show, and apparently he had been a problem, go figure, to his neighbors. So his neighbors all sent the damn show, or sent it to the sheriff's department, who were like, yeah, that doesn't look good, and boom, off he goes to jail, which is 5 kinds of wonderful. But sadly, that has sort of poisoned my Doomsday Preppers perspective.
Again, we've talked about these types of people before. So
yeah.
So that's what so in 2 weeks, folks, we'll do in 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the reality survivalist apocalyptic type shows. Whether it's survival simulation or the people preparing for the apocalypse. So that's going to be our subject matter for next show. Lucky 21. So
Lucky 21. Excellent.
All right, folks, so that's it for tonight. I got nothing else to say. No final words. You got anything for us, Scott?
Nope. No. With any luck, we'll be here next time. Before Vladimir Putin, lets the birds fly and ends our show early.
That would be terrible. We got a lot of work to do still, so we have to work on Putin.
so much for Lucky 21.
Yeah, right.
Lucky. Let's hope it is lucky.
All right, so folks, that's it. Again, thank you for viewing. Thank you for being us. We will catch you in 2 weeks. So for myself and for Mr. Scott Glancy, thank you and good night. We'll see you in 2 weeks.